Welcome to the March edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin this month with a focus on school finance. With very real concerns of a government shutdown in March and uncertainty in general with federal funding, there are a few specific actions districts should be taking to claim federal dollars. MSBA's Senior Director of School Finance, Linda Quinley, explains.
Hello, welcome to this month's board report, and this time we're going to talk a little bit about finance with you, very specifically focusing on what's happening at the federal level and state level related to some of our primary grants and funding. So just a key piece of information for you to know is that the recent halts or slowdowns or possibilities of those on our federal grant dollars was not about our entitlement grants like Title I and special education. Those were really more about discretionary grants. And so while we were not concerned about losing those main dollar sources for us, we were concerned about loss of discretionary. The good news is that those have been lifted right now and all money is flowing. But we want to talk just for a second about how to help your leaders make sure that you're getting all of those revenues and what you do need to be watching. Our greater concern at this point in time is a possible slowdown or shutdown of the federal government, which would then slow down or delay significantly your federal program dollars. Help make sure that you are timely and consistently claiming those federal dollars so that if there is a slowdown or a shutdown, you don't incur any kind of a cash flow delay. The end goal is to have those federal dollars in your pocket as quickly as you can after you spend them so that if something happens at the federal level and there is a slowdown or a shutdown, you've got your cash instead of the feds having your cash. Keep in mind that as you go into next budget cycle, their allocations will continue to come. The leadership in your district will be watching for those allocations and planning to fully use those allocations. Our recommendation is going to be to continue next year like we're asking you to end this year. And just be really intentional about getting those federal dollars spent early and claimed quickly.
The best practice is to claim your federal program dollars at least quarterly, if not monthly, keeping the funds coming in soon after they are spent by the district. Make sure the district spends federal dollars first, saving state and local dollars to use as needed. Contact Linda Quinley for finance questions and watch the weekly and the MSBA website for updates and information about upcoming financial webinars. MSBA's spring virtual meeting was held recently and it featured Dr. Phil Gore, a former Seattle area school board member. Dr. Gore is also a nationally recognized researcher, author, and speaker on school governance. The title of Dr. Gore's presentation was Building a Culture of Trust. Dr. Gore said that building trust and the work of school boards is critical.
School boards do matter when it comes to public education. In fact, we may matter now as much or more than ever. We are one of those last bastions of local control, local governance, and we are the entity that ensures we're creating a more democratizing student population and young adults to take our place in years to come. Trust is just as important or more important than it's ever been before when it comes to this work. In school board development, we often tell board members that they are stewards of the public's two most precious resources, their children and their money.
And last but certainly not least, it's March, which means it's School Board Recognition Month. All of us at MSBA sincerely want to thank each and every one of you for all that you do. Your hard work and dedication to your schools and communities are appreciated, and your commitment to all students does not go unnoticed. Visit the MSBA website for materials to help celebrate. So with that, thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in April for the next MSBA Board Report.
Thank you. I wanted to share, a few of us went to the MSB Advocacy Day in Jefferson City last week. We took a student with us this year, Mr. Shay Coleman, who I don't see in the audience, but I think he enjoyed it. We spent some time at a conference that morning, and then we met with our state rep, our state senator, and went and sat in the Senate and House gallery. So it was nice. It was a good meeting with both representatives. We also met in a group with our State Superintendent Carla Esslinger. She talked about the federal dollars. She didn't really so much say that there was any cuts that she knew of. They just were kind of the communication was in disarray between the federal government and the state government, and she hoped that would be resolved soon. They didn't know from day to day what they were dealing with. So that was kind of her direction. We did a good visit with Senator Henderson and Representative Bryant. I told Dr. Taylor and the folks who went with me, we certainly don't agree on everything, but I felt listened to. I felt heard. They agreed with some of the things. There's a bill to move school board elections to November that we had to disagree on. I don't think that's appropriate, but that's just my opinion. And so they're gonna look at that. And then we talked a lot about the funding that I think was alluded to in the video, where last year Senate Bill 727 passed, which does a few things to increase the dollars for public education. One of them is it increases the state adequacy target to about 7150, I believe, which would be another $300 million for public schools, approximately $690,000 for our school district that was promised, and those promises were made that got the very last vote to pass that bill. And now the governor this year has said, I don't think we have that money to give. There's a $4.6 billion surplus, thank you, sir, in the state. So I think, I know Josh talked to Senator Huff and some others in the Senate, and I think they'll put that money back in, and we'll get that money as we were promised. But
so Senator Huff leads the Senate Appropriations Committee,
yes,
which is basically saying he's the guy who does the budget for the Senate. He has made a comment on more than one occasion. He intends to add $300 million back into the state budget. Then it comes down to him reconciling with the House, and of course the governor signing said bill. The other piece that's alarming is the $300 million is being underfunded, but the governor has pledged $50 million of tax dollars to fund vouchers, which, for those of you who don't know, vouchers basically allow parents to take tax dollars and use that money to pay for a private school. But the issue is that those private schools don't have the same stipulations we have, meeting certain guidelines with testing, accountability. Accountability is missing amongst that. So the governor's willing to put your tax dollars into private education with no accountability. So we advocated for that. And one thing about Dr. Esslinger, Dave talked about superintendent of the state of Missouri. She said they have a similar type cohort where all the state superintendents are in a group, kind of like we're in the Missouri School Board Association. They are meeting with the Department of Education, and like Dave alluded to, it's a state of disarray. No one really knows what's going on. They're asking for clarification, so she doesn't have anything. We don't have anything, and so we're seeking guidance on what's actually going to happen with the Department of Education. And yeah, like Dave said, I got to talk to Senator Huff, so that was my highlight of my day. So seeing him walking in the hallway, and I stopped him like, "You're Lincoln, right?" So
it was a good day.
Yeah.
It was a good day. It was one of the better ones that I've had up there. So we'll see how the legislation pans out, but it was a good day. I also wanted to thank Mr. Roth and his kids for being at the student showcase up there. I apologize we missed you, but we did get to talk to the
Yes.
kids. And then we brought Representative Bryant out, but you were gone. Representative, Wolfen out, and you were gone. But they were both excited to come see you guys. They just did not make it out there, but thank you very much. It was nice to be represented amongst some premier programs up there in the Capitol Rotunda. The only other thing I have is I just want to acknowledge that a neighboring school district took a pretty big hit here recently. I think most of us here, including Dr. Taylor, have reached out and offered as much help as we can. I think they're still assessing where they're at, but they're going to get together with us as far as what their needs may be in the future, and we're going to try to help them. So if you could keep them in your thoughts and prayers, we'd much appreciate it.
They have an open board meeting tomorrow night. So, yeah, very sad.
Yes. All right. Next, we have the consent agenda.
okay, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is public participation. I know everybody's going to be disappointed, but I'm not going to read through that whole thing this meeting. Come next meeting if you want to hear it, I'll read through it. I do not have any public comment.
Nor do I.
Next, we have the report of the superintendent.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening.
In your board packet, you will see a note of appreciation from an employee just going through some tough times and wanted to reach out and say thank you for our leave approach and what we do to meet our employees where they are. So that's in your packet. Annual school board election, I did want to review this. We skipped it last month. Filing opened December 10th, closed on December 31st. Yes, December 31st. Thank you, Chrissy Gettinger. We do not have to have an election this year. The same number of candidates equaled our open number of positions. So once again, congratulations, Mrs. Jamie Balut and Mr. Josh Gettinger for another 3-year term. It is also School Board Recognition Month, so we would like to take a minute to hand these out.
You?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is these the lock keepers?
Thank you.
I'm going to take a second and see if I can pull up the governor's proclamation. I feel like it's important to recognize you all. You work tirelessly to provide an appropriate education for our students and create an environment for our employees that is sustainable. So I think it's important to look at what the governor says and recognize you appropriately. This is a proclamation from the governor. Whereas a system of quality public education is essential to the future of our state and nation, and whereas the people of Missouri have a long tradition of support for public education in their local school districts, and whereas local school boards are the ultimate expression of the unique American institution of representative governance of public school districts, and whereas local school boards acting on behalf of and in close connection with the people of their communities chart the direction of education in their communities. And whereas local school boards serve as the key community advocate for children, youth, and the public schools. Now therefore I, Mike Kehoe, Governor of the state of Missouri, do hereby proclaim March 2025 to be School Board Recognition Month in Missouri. So congratulations. I think you had some gifts from the elementary schools, and I think the middle school provided you all with supper this evening.
Very delicious. Thank you.
So once again, thank you for all you do for public schools and for kids. And we appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for the gifts.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I
thank you
just
for the
want you
gifts.
to know, we could not get any better gifts than these letters from the kids. They are really sweet.
Yes, they are. I have all of them.
Yeah, me too. I'm a container.
Next on the superintendent's reports, kindergarten registration. Held at St. Genevieve Elementary on March 1st, held at Bloomsdale Elementary on March 15th. And if any families missed kindergarten registration and screening, please call the elementary office to enroll your child for the 25-26 school year. I do have some preliminary numbers that I received today from our elementary schools. Right now, we have 77 total screened, 66 at St. Genevieve Elementary and 11 at Bloomsdale Elementary. And then the next date, we had 38 screened at Bloomsdale Elementary. So anticipated enrollment for Bloomsdale is 40 at the kindergarten level, and anticipated enrollment for St. Genevieve Elementary is 89. That number's a little shy. I think we'll add quite a few to that. But it was very successful, and I think Mrs. Ketting even mentioned that the kiddos being screened who have attended our preschools are knocking it out of the park. So I can't wait to have 8 classrooms of preschool next year and have even more kids knocking it out of the park. Next. Jude.
All right. Our state testing is coming up. As you can see from the picture, we are excited, and it's just one puzzle piece of the year. BLE will conduct theirs April 22nd through May St. John Elementary, April 23rd through May 8th, and the middle school will be April 15th through May 8th. The EOCs in the high school, and in one case, I guess, middle school, Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 and Biology are April 23rd and 24th, and then they will do a big testing day. Basically, everybody's taking a test of some sort on April 25th with English and ACT and work keys. And then we will be back to Algebra 1 along with Biology, Government, and Personal Finance on April 28th and May 1st. The high school will also run a block schedule following that to help accommodate the shared teachers they have with the middle school, so they can make sure that they are able to test in those May dates as well.
Next on the superintendent report is the retirement and recognition banquet. We are holding that banquet on Friday, May 16th at St. Genevieve Elks Lodge at 6 p.m. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. Next on the agenda is principal reports.
Good evening. Happy School Board Recognition Month. Thank you guys for everything you do. This month I wanted to do a couple of different things on my presentation. Instead of showing you pictures of the students, I wanted to give you an inside look of what's going on in some of our classrooms. As you know, we're on our competency-based education journey, and we've been learning about learning intentions, success criteria, and these are some examples of what's posted in classrooms of our impact team. So with the learning intentions, it's what students must know and be able to do, and the success criteria is how they will know when they've gotten there and mastered that criteria. And just recently, Dr. Westfall did a walk around in our building with the impact team, and we went inside some of the classrooms and we snapped some of the pictures of what they have on display. And then we questioned and sat down with the students, and they were able to articulate what they were learning, how they knew they had mastered it, and what was next on their learning progression. And that goes all the way even down to the kindergarten classrooms. It was very interesting to see how those kindergarten students were able to do that and articulate what they were doing. And these are just some examples that the teachers have in their classrooms of students knowing what they need to do, and when they master it, they can mark their name on it. It's very visual. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those impact team teachers that are doing the work, and the students that are going along for the ride, and they're doing a very good job. So just wanted to share that with you. On this page, I wanted to also show the odd one out. It's the strategy that Dr. Westfall showed our impact team, where you take 3 things and you find commonalities with 2 of them and try to figure out which one's left out. So I think the example that she gave us that first day that we did it was a cheeseburger, fries, and a salad. And so there are very different opinions on which one is the odd one out, but what it does is it starts constructive conversations with the groups that are working. So then Miss Whitley Geck, who is part of the impact team, she took that strategy even further and put her students in groups, and they're doing the odd one out with articles that they had to read. So she took that very simple strategy and then is now applying it to, they had 3 articles, and they had to find which one was the odd one out based on the commonalities, and then they had to share out their ideas. So that's taking that a step further. And then there on the right, Sarah Roth, she just did a book tasting with her students, and it was just so fun to watch them get to try out new books and go around the classroom, and she had the room all decorated, so I just wanted to put that in there for your viewing. Read on Missouri Week. This is always a fun week. It was a hectic week full of false fire alarms and guest readers, and there was a lot going on. Mr. Kingery and I happened to be out of the building for 2 of the days at the MAESP conference, so we apologize to our staff for that. We'll never leave them again at the same time. But here are some pictures from that week. Down at the bottom, we have Mrs. K. She obviously dressed like Mr. K, if you've ever seen some of his suits. This was the mystery day where you were supposed to dress in disguise and dress like someone. And then Mrs. Bowman, she rocked Fairy Tale Day, so I had to put that in there. And then we have a few pictures of our guest readers, and I know many of you came into our building and got to experience evacuating a few times, so sorry. And then we had some Dr. Seuss activities, and then on Friday we had flashlight reading. Mrs. Beckett, our librarian, provided little flashlights for all of our students so they could participate. And then I owe you a feature teacher, super staff from February because we weren't ready when we had our board meeting. So our February feature teacher was Bailey Macklin. Some of the things that were said about Bailey is that she's helpful, finding ways to help her team always, make students feel special. She has a passion for teaching, and she is phenomenal in her new role. And Sarah Wrinkle was our paraprofessional for February. And she is her students' biggest cheerleader. She's helpful, patient, goes above and beyond, cares about students with her whole heart, and celebrates their victories with them. And then we have our March feature teacher and super staff. So our March feature teacher was Miss Megan Williams. She's our reflection room teacher. Her nomination said she's dedicated, passionate, positive light for students and staff, goes above and beyond, has a listening ear, and has commitment to education. And then our super staff was Miss Kirsten St. Clair. She is our reflection room and Ames room paraprofessional. And her nominations said she has a positive attitude, she is always smiling, helps students navigate challenging situations, she's passionate, compassionate, genuine, care for each student. And then this is our positive office referral video. Mr. Kingery put this together, and it says free trial on it because our other media expired, so just ignore that. We have Colin Nora Dunsey, Canton Dunsey, Brody Rector, Aaliyah Welch, AJ Robles, Langston Roy, James Kelly, Harper Garth, Graham Pulley, Dylan Shue, Nora Donovan, Nolan Romer, Naomi Frazier, Mason Nagger, Louis Guilford, Ryder Langley, Rhett Hogan Miller, Quinn Fowler, Peyton Kellum, Paxton Hook, Valerie Seibel, Tristan Vitale, Tessa Richardson, Sammy Bowman, Sadie Rowland, Riley Lurk, and that's it for St. Genevieve Elementary. Thank you, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, we will start with our faculty and staff of the month. We have Tyne Hook. Tyne is a bright light at Bloomsdale Elementary, and her personality brings a smile to all of her students and staff. Mrs. Hook is always helpful and works with teachers to problem solve and come up with different ideas to help her students. Her passion for teaching and helping students is a joy to see. We are thankful for her hard work and dedication. And Darla Barr works hard to keep teachers updated, promptly replies to emails and requests from her teachers, and she always has a smile on her face and a friendly tone to staff and students. And I agree. Our positive office referrals, Naomi Jordan, ×2, Frankie Farabella, Carter Poindexter, Lily Schwint, Oliver Mall, Jackson Heberly, Kinley Castellaw, Chase Moran, Theodora Schleter, and Bowen Story. And we took a different approach to our slides too. You kind of get a little mundane and doing the same old thing. So Mrs. Tischer and some of her students worked on some slides for us. They highlighted just a few things, Read on Missouri Week, and if you'll click on that top, the top picture, there's a link there. And if you would just play maybe a minute of it. And then we had many of you that were able to come read to the students. They really enjoyed that. Mr. Friedmeier, he took our students to Carnegie Hall. It was our 4th grade students, and they got to play their recorders, so they were all very excited to do that. It was a neat experience for them, and it was for Music in the Schools Month. And then our kindness leaders went with Mrs. Rowland and Mrs. Bloom, and then Miss Guilford also helped. They went, and I'm going to read what Mrs. Rowland had written. The kindness leaders from BLE recently traveled to Sikeston, Missouri to volunteer at the Southeast Missouri Food Bank. With the support of parents and sponsors, 13 kindness leaders worked together to pack food for the elderly residents in our region, making a meaningful impact on the community. The trip was made possible through fundraising efforts led by kindness leaders, demonstrating their commitment to service beyond the walls of our school. These student leaders play a vital role as mentors to young students in grades K through 3. Each week, they visit classrooms to teach important lessons about kindness, empathy, and community involvement. And every Friday they teach a lesson to the younger students in the other classrooms, and the kiddos really enjoy that on both ends. So if you would play one more video there on the bottom.
Give me that sunshine, sunshine. Give me them good times, good times. Nothing but good vibes, good vibes. Give me that sunshine, sunshine. Every day is a new beginning. Every day is a gift to hold up high. Everyone has a way to carry. Everyone has a soul, so let it shine. Don't worry about the
Thank you guys for all you do.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. We've had a lot going on in St. Genevieve Middle School too, but I got to tell you, those are 2 very tough acts to follow. I do want to introduce you to Tiffany Mooney. That's her big enthusiastic smile there on the left. She is the new secretary in the middle school building. Tina, who held that position for 7 or 8 strong years, has gone over to district office to help with some of their important tasks. And so we have Tiffany now. And so I think it's important that I introduce you to her, because the secretaries, often even more than the principals, are the face and the voice of the school. They're sometimes the first person someone meets when they come to St. Genevieve Middle School, or any building for that matter. So I just want to introduce you to Tiffany, and also to put in a good word for her. She's doing a fabulous job. She's not afraid to try anything. She's picking things up quickly and easily and doing a great job for us. Up there at the top, there are 2 pictures that go together there. And as you guys well know, there is a lot of jargon, a lot of catchphrases, a lot of slogans in education. One of my favorite, though, is that the best way to learn something is to teach it. And our science teachers really expanded on that by asking their kids to teach some science lessons for us in the classroom. I think these are 7th graders that you see in front of you. Mrs. Huffman took these for us. And these guys are talking about different states of matter, but they do all kinds of things, force, mass, accelerate, depending on what is going on in the classroom that day. And I really believe that the best way to teach something is to learn it, because you really have to know all of the ins and outs. And these guys and other students like them have done a fabulous job with that. And I want to take my hat off to those science teachers for getting creative and inventive and giving the kids a different way to tackle the material. At the bottom right there, you see our students at the Mineral Area Band Festival. We took a good handful of students to that, Mrs. Elders did, and had a great day with those students, and also made time for a little bit of fun on the way back. They stopped in Bonne Terre at the Fun Center and capped the day off with some laughs there. We had the pleasure of hosting 5th grade parent night at the beginning of March. And I was feeling a little uncertain about it. I want to be honest with you. We didn't have high expectations for weather. I was a little concerned that we hadn't gotten the word out properly, but they turned out, and probably a little bit more than average, as a matter of fact. And we had just a very relaxing, personable conversation with all of those parents. You know, it's really low key, and they have a chance to spend some time with Mrs. Huffman by herself, and some time with me by myself, and some time with Mrs. Meyer by myself. And because we're able to keep them in small groups, I think it makes those conversations a little more organic, a little more comfortable. And we just had a fabulous evening that night. We want to thank Mrs. Meyer for putting that together, but also those fifth grade parents for turning out that night. At the top right and bottom right, you have a couple of photos from our school play, which was just not that long ago. And it was a comedy with a little mystery twist called Freaky Tiki, about a hotel resort, and it was fun, and lots of kids in it. Everybody had a great part. Our directors, of course, Mrs. Bosler, Mrs. Keim, did a wonderful job, as they always do. And if you've never been put in that position before, I can tell you it takes a different sort of courage to get on the stage for a play, for a band performance, for a singing performance. You're really putting yourself out there. So hats off to those guys, and congratulations to them for taking that step. A little bit of fun there at the bottom left and in the center. Those are some of our French students who got to celebrate Mardi Gras in their French class. I think they're having a few bites of king cake there and having fun with their beads and their crowns, and understanding what that holiday is all about and the French traditions that go along with it. Dragons on Fire for this month include Darian Reddy, Dylan Lohman, Henry Holyfield, Lydia Berdinka, Levi Vogt, Ian Roth, and Aubrey Johnson. Congratulations to those students. I owe you a Spotlight Award too from February. The weather didn't cooperate with us in time to get that to you then. So we have Mrs. Weiner for February and Mrs. Diamond for March. And I'm actually going to talk about them together because some of their comments were the same. It's that they work hard for all of their students. They find interesting ways to connect with kids who sometimes have difficulties making connections with people. And I want you to notice one of the similarities is in Ashley's last comment, awesome but humble. And Mrs. Diamond's first comment, Katie's there, was quiet but mighty. And if you know either of those ladies, those are really fitting for them. And it just, to me, it said, somebody that really knows these ladies wrote these nominations. It was just so fitting. So congratulations to those ladies, and thanks to our faculty and staff who really take the time to take these nominations seriously and make sure that they get around to those who deserve them. I've told you this before, but I think it bears repeating. When I collect the nominations for the Spotlight Award, it's not unusual to have 10 different people nominated in a month. And I love that. Because it just means that we're working hard to make sure that we spread the recognition around the building. And that's very important to me. What's coming up for us? There's a look at some of our upcoming dates. Biggest on our radar right now is Friday of this week when we have grade level field trips. We are going to empty out the building as we have done for the last few years. That is a huge undertaking. And I want to thank Mrs. Huffman for putting that together, but also the amount of detail work that she puts into it. She works very hard to make sure that our teachers have the plans, they have the rosters, they have the schedules, they have absolutely everything that they need in order to be successful that day. With a lot of help from our teachers, of course, and especially on that day. But Mrs. Huffman has ramrodded that for us for the last few years and does an amazing job. I'll leave these dates up for you as I sit down so that you can be familiar with them. Thank you very much for your time, and happy Board Appreciation Month.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You guys aren't going to listen to me long, but before we do that, you haven't gotten anything from the high school yet, so we do have some gifts for you guys for Board Appreciation Month. So Kennedy is going to present those. She's part of Mrs. Crump's marketing productions class, which is new within the last couple of years. I know you guys got some gifts last year from them, and they have some new ones for you guys again this year as well. So we hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to come around with her and help her deliver those. And then delivering our board report this evening is Miss Anna Fisher. So we'll get those handed out.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Here to the right, we have some pictures of things that have been happening around our school. There at the top, Dr. Dunzy has been bringing in her goats, which she likes to parade around the hallways. Evan is delivering his dragon fuel to one of our teachers. Mrs. Uzel celebrated Mardi Gras with all of her teachers as the middle school shown. And then there at the bottom, our cheer team put on a cheer clinic for the elementary students. And we also had Drive Your Tractor to School on FFA week. Highlighted students, our March Elk Student of the Month was Savannah DeRouche, and our March Rotary Student of the Month was Kaylin Harmon. Our positive office referrals were Mason Trollinger, Mackenzie Greer, Brenna Wolk, Talon Pinkley, Alyssa Bowen, Jeremy Dunsey Jr., Hallie Wishern, Kaya Plotty, Paige Schwint, Brianna Falk, Dominic Johnson Jr., Kennedy Buat, Jeffrey Hunter Jr., Lexi Warren, Serenity Smith, Kimberly Banderas, and Dawson Whittiff. Recently we held an induction ceremony to celebrate our Hall of Fame and Dragon of Honor inductees, which were Clint Wolk, Dennis Drum, and Brian Jett. And we had a symbolic experience where they laced up their custom Chuck Taylors that we designed for them. And marketing productions and our tech classes also produced gifts to give them. Choir, London White Hume and Damian Dickerson qualified for state. Over there on the left. Whatever, it's not the left, but it'll be fine. Tyson Roth took a group of cadet students to the Capitol to present for the MSBA. And then today we actually did Raccoon Day, which is where we take pots and we fire them outside. It's really fun. And then our student council was recognized as a gold honor council, which only 66 councils in the state of Missouri are recognized, and it takes a detailed application to be submitted. And Mr. Roth also took a group of kids to Suco State this past weekend, which I'm pretty sure they got caught in some weather. Speech and debate, we hosted districts, and we qualified many for the final round in state level, and they placed 3rd out of 16 schools. Some upcoming dates we have is the Dan Clark Honors Banquet on April 16th, proms on April 12th, the senior trips on April 25th, and Dragons with Distinction ceremony is on May 9th, and the graduation is May 10th. Sports, I have some winter sports finishes updates for you. Boys wrestling finished first as a team at districts with 12 state qualifiers, a dual record of 16-3, and they took 3rd as a team at state with 5 state placers, including Owen Drury, who took 6th, Brody Winters, who took 3rd, Owen Roth took 4th, Mason Lingenecker took 3rd, Drake Meyer took 2nd, and Jacob Schweigert took 1st. Girls wrestling, they finished 2nd as a team at districts with 9 state qualifiers, which is our whole team. And then they went undefeated in duels and took 15th as a team at state with 1 state champ, Keely Fowler. Emeralds took 7th at state, and boys basketball finished their season 2nd in the district with a 13-14 record. And girls basketball finished their season with a 11-15 record, making it to the district semifinals. Spring sports are starting with track. They have their first meet at Cape Notre Dame this Saturday. The baseball jamboree was tonight, and softball travels to Arkansas for a tournament this weekend. And that's all I got for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you guys see the back?
Is that Jerry stuff?
I don't think I can.
No, they fully is it. You just tie fully is
Oh.
it.
There you go.
What if mine don't fit?
Is that Jerry stuff?
I didn't get a jacket. That's not mine.
Very nice.
That's working. Do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
These are awesome. Thank you.
I gotta try this one too. Where you have?
Thank you.
I got one. Oh, I think we'll go
They took off already.
You gotta loosen it up a little.
That's for all these softball and.
Yes.
I don't know how you're gonna follow that. You got anything?
Safety report.
Sorry.
Safety report.
Very nice.
So the last item in the superintendent's report is safety reports, which you will find in your packet, and that is all from me.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you. You're wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda is unfinished business, and the first item is the instructional program presentation for high school science. Who's up first? He's got it all.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So yeah, I will be the sole representative for the science department. Me, Mr. Diamond, and then we have Dr. Curtin, Ms. Stamnitz, Mr. Swent, and Mr. Schweiss. So we'll be running through a little bit. Each of the slides will have kind of an overview of what the curriculum is, and then we just picked a couple of things that we thought we wanted to share about each of our classes in the science department. So starting out, and these are going to going in order as you go through your classes from freshman to senior. Integrated science class is designed to introduce students to physics, chemistry, and biology and prepare them for the upper level high school courses. You'll notice that all three of those are covered by those three fundamental pieces right there. Fundamentals of physics, of chemistry, and of biology. Really gives our kids a great core before they go on into their later classes. Here's three awesome activities they do in there. They have Army catapults, where they're building catapults out of mostly just office supplies, stuff you'd find around the house, and then calculating the speed that they were able to launch their Army man. Newton scooters, which is where the kids had to design their own self-propelled cart and race them against each other, see how far they could go. And then a phase change lab. It's a little bit hard to see in that picture there, but they're talking about the different states of matter. So of course you got to make ice cream whenever you do that. Next up, we have biology. Students are completing activities and lab experiments that are providing the foundation for knowledge and growth in the biological fields specifically. It is an EOC tested course in the spring, so we have to cover quite a bit of stuff, and it has to kind of all get in before that. Biochemistry, cellular stuff, including membrane transport, energy processes, DNA and protein synthesis, ecology, evolution, all that lovely stuff for the EOC gets put in there. Three of the great activities they do in that is cell membrane bubble labs. Kids love this. It's where you make bubbles by using frameworks made out of straws to show that you can actually pass things through those bubbles without popping them. Use that to represent the cells and how you can pass things in and out. Exploring enzymes and what they can do. They look at the different enzymes needed for digestion. Each of those three containers there, or four containers there, are showing how you can increase or decrease the amount of enzymes and get different results out of it. And then they talked about natural selections, where they simulated natural selection by seeing which jelly belly kiss organisms were best suited for their environment. So I haven't heard of that species, but that's why I teach chemistry and physics. They're yummy. Next up, we have anatomy and physiology, study of a lot of systems. So many systems. I don't think I could pronounce all of them correctly, so I'm not even going to try. But everything related to the body. And some of the stuff they do in that class, they do blood simulation, where they are showing how blood can be made out of all the different components. We normally don't get to see it. We normally just think of blood as this kind of red thing, but they actually get to make a little sample where they get to see what all the different components of blood are. I think it includes red hots, and then I don't know if it says what the other piece is, but I know red hots were the red blood cells that are inside of it. The kids were very excited about it. Muscular movements, they have to create videos demonstrating the different types of muscular movements and how they look and how they worked. I know that they're doing that because outside of my door I see kids doing really strange motions and dances, so I know it's that time of year whenever that starts happening. And then they also simulate the movement of food through the entire digestive tract using an actual scale model to show like the whole length of what the intestines look like. Next up is chemistry. We're here to kind of expand upon the foundations of integrated science. We're really focusing on building the scientific thinking and trying to prepare them for the advanced courses. This is kind of the gateway to all of our upper level science courses. Some of the big stuff that we hit on that's new for them though is chemical nomenclature, stoichiometry, and acids and bases. As far as stuff that we do, a big one that the kids won't shut up about is the flame test lab. We did it for the first time since I've gotten here. I've actually had all the supplies to do it, and then I accidentally got bronchitis the day I started it, so they keep wanting to finish the lab because my lungs have finally recovered. But it's basically holding chemicals over a flame. What more could you ask for? Kids love it. We also get to create our own periodic tables. That's one of my favorites that they get to do. They have to design it with the same criteria that the normal periodic table was made. They have to have rules and requirements of pieces and organize them in a logical way. I believe that one was made by Camille Milan. Wonderful student. I think that's my favorite one from this year. You can tell that's all my kids. They know that's my favorite. It's the one that's hanging up. And then one of the big things that we're pushing for as part of the CBE team, I'm also looking at a lot of different testing alternatives and stuff like that. And so one thing I wanted to highlight was at the end of this last semester, we actually did a collaborative project that was using carbon dating for a fictional archaeological analysis where they had to figure out whether or not things coexisted in the same time period. Some of the kids hated it, but I think some of the kids really did not realize the connections that could have been had for chemistry to their day-to-day life. Next up is forensics, another really popular class. Students spend time learning techniques to investigate crimes. That includes fingerprinting, document investigation, hair and fiber analysis, footprints, tire tracks, tool marks, blood typing splatter. They even get to see a murder or the aftermath of a murder. One of the aftermath of a murder. I mean, not a real murder, but there's a... I don't know what happens at that end of the hallway all the time. But going over all the different things that you would think of related to CSI, I'm sure some of the kids go in there expecting it's going to be exactly like the show, but by the end of it, they realize that there's lots of really core and important science that's behind all that stuff, and it's a lot harder than it looks on TV. Some of the stuff they do, fingerprinting, looking and identifying different fingerprints to see if they can figure out what they are. Ink analysis, where they have to test different types of pens and see how the ink behaves in different ransom notes to check which pen might have written it. And then one of the things that I know they happen every year, because I see the signs all the time, is you have the monkey napping that occurs, where Sammy the tamarin monkey gets kidnapped, and they have to try to figure out which teacher around the school has stolen them using all the things they've learned in all the class. I know it's a very entertaining time for all those kids. Next up is earth science. Students learning about the hydrosphere this quarter. It's a very broad topic. The earth is a very broad thing. It's got a lot of stuff in it. So hydrosphere is the big topic of this semester. They've talked about the water cycle, aquatic biomes, and an emphasis on water pollution and solutions to the problems that are caused by it. Next quarter, they're going to be getting into the atmosphere, the layers of the atmosphere, and the composition of the atmosphere as well. Some things they do, they have a Clean the Ocean STEM project. Students have to design their own project and propose a way that they could be used to clean up the ocean. It would be lovely if we could actually try to implement all of these designs. We haven't gotten to that point yet with any of it, but it is really crazy to see how insanely detailed some of these proposals are when these kids come and talk about them to even me, not being in that classroom, but hearing some of the kids talk about their designs, it's really incredible. They even have to give a Shark Tank presentation for it. They also sample some local lakes and ponds and look at microorganisms that are inside of that and try to identify those. And then they also have a challenge where they have to try to make water drinkable. They're given some really lovely looking water in a cup over there, and they have to try to get it to the point that it would be safe to drink through some of the processes they discover or they talk about in the water sphere. Next up is advanced biology. It's designed to allow students to dig deeper into the biological concepts, including really digging into those building blocks of life, cell structure and function, origin and early evolution of life, ethical issues in science, and bacteria. Again, some of the awesome things they do there. Macromolecule identification. Students spend a large amount of time in the lab doing this. They spend a lot of time figuring out what all the different macromolecules are, how they can identify them. And I know that this definitely sticks with them, as I've had students that have tried to use that in my class to attempt to solve some of the problems that I've proposed them. They go, hey, we learned about this in this advanced class. Can I go and steal some of the stuff from down there, see if it'll help us answer the questions down here? Covering ethics in science, where they have to do a research topic and debate their side of an argument related to something in the scientific space. I know one of the things, Henrietta Lacks, where they talk about cancerous and normal cells and the ethics involved in that case. If you don't know about it, book's great, highly recommend it. It's a very interesting story. And then students also collect samples from around the school, and they prepare petri dishes to kind of test and see how the different bacteria and different things that grow in the petri dishes from the different locations of the school, and they learn about the staining techniques involved in that. Next up, advanced organic chemistry. This is the sequel to chemistry. We kind of increase the problem-solving stuff that's required for it, increase the difficulty. Organic covers nomenclature, stability, chirality, and polarity of molecules. And then advanced covers redox reactions, solutions, solubility, and chemical equilibriums. Three things that I want to highlight. We haven't gotten to do it this year, unfortunately, due to all the weather and due to me having a child. But we normally get to do an essential oil extractions where they get to extract lemon, lime oil, cinnamon oil, or some other oil of their choice. We then usually use that to make soap, which we did recently finally get to do. They get to design using, we have a calculator. They get to pick what stuff they want to add to the soap. They get to pick what scents they want to add to it. They get to pick the oils that are involved. Go out and do a big old Walmart trip to get all that stuff, and then they come back and they get to design and mold their own soaps. They're currently curing in my closet right now. It smells a lot like black licorice in there, so one of the kids wanted to do that. The other kids were not happy about my room smelling like black licorice, but I enjoy the smell, so it's been a good time. And then we do a lot of other little labs here and there. Those are two of the really, really big ones. We do some metal plating that we're going to be getting to pretty soon, where they're going to get to gold plate a penny. I know that's, I guess, technically a crime that I'm admitting to right now, but it's not fully destroying the piece of currency. You can still use it. And then they actually currently are in the midst of a lab where they were given a very simple task to figure out how much is able to dissolve in water of something of their choice. And the kids are losing their minds because they were given no instructions whatsoever, and they have to come up with the entire plan, the entire design process, everything themselves. And they're currently day 3 in that, and they're probably going to need at least the rest of the week to finish that. And last but not least, we have physics. A little in-joke for all of my students in there with Vector up there. Every week I have a different picture of Vector up on my board from Despicable Me. One of the big things we talk about is vectors in that class. We cover topics including 1 and 2D kinematics, 1 and 2D forces, energy, and momentum. There's a really heavy focus on this class on abstract problem solving and high-level critical thinking, including each chapter having a challenge problem, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. So first, again, I try to push college level difficulty in this class. This is kind of the pinnacle of the science department for a lot of these kids. So the main goal is to prepare them for college experiences, especially those who plan on pursuing a field in science. I'm a lot more hands-off with those kids. If they want to make bad choices and not do work, that's on them. They got to learn to do that probably now before they go to college. Again, challenge problems. It's really hard to tell what's actually written on the board, but that is Charlie Corbett's work for the first about half of the challenge problem that they're currently working on. He likes to do them on the board. These are collaborative problems that the students get to work on together. They have multiple days to do it. It counts as a component of their test grade. Usually it involves some sort of real world scenarios, although I make sure it's not too realistic because then they might get bored. This one is helping the Great Toledo Ice Cream Bandit, who is a recurring character in my problems, try to build a lair in the South American jungle, and they have to try to design the power system that he's going to use based on some waterfalls that are present around there. And then, of course, it's not all just learning. One of the other reasons that I think some kids just take my class for is they get to go to Six Flags. We spend the last chunk of the year talking about roller coaster physics. We talk about the motion, the power, the safety of them, and then this all culminates in going to Six Flags at the end of April or beginning of May every year. They even get to use some of the other classes' kids as minions to help them figure out all the puzzles and problems they need to solve in the park. And I believe that's it. So yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have the Prop SG updates.
And we have Romy Elk and Colin Rogers here this evening. Romy's from KRJ, Colin's from Brockmiller Construction. Before we get to them, we're going to flip through some pictures because every month I roll over from the prior year and look back at where we were a year ago. And that's where we were a year ago. We were just pouring concrete at this point a year ago. It was really exciting to get out there and see the pump truck out there over it and all those guys working hard to smooth it out. Now you've so thank you. And that's what we have now. Getting ready to asphalt and concrete the remaining parking lot and road out there. It's come a long way, and my hope is next month we'll be able to take you all out there and hold our board meeting out there. Everything should be pretty close to wrapping up by then. We'll be able to get on the road and get a Mondo pad out there so that we can see everything. So go through a couple more there. It's a front picture. That's a picture of the multi-purpose room.
That looks different than a week ago.
Yes.
I may have snuck in a week ago.
A couple of the really low height sinks, the wonderful hallway, and a few more pictures. So we'll go back to that first slide, and I've got their presentation there. So we'll let Romy and Colin take over. Thank you for coming this evening, by the way.
Okay, like Dr. Taylor mentioned, we're just going to give a brief update on all the projects and how they're all going, overall timeline, and maybe mention the budget. So the first project that was completed, of course, was Bloomsdale, and that we all know added on the front entrance in the office. And then the next project that was completed was the middle school addition, which of course added ADA accessibility to the third floor and restrooms that were much needed. Those are just some pictures of the final product. And then, like Dr. Taylor just mentioned, he stole all of our glory on early childhood. That's your property out there off Maple and the site plan with the project that is under construction. And then that's just the floor plan. That was the graphics, and then you saw pictures of what it's looking like now.
And as Dr. Taylor mentioned, the asphalt is slated for the first week of April, and then we're going to complete Maple Street Road. Punch list was completed this past week, so we're working on that and putting the final touches on the interior of the building. Playground will be here.
Yeah, so the end of this month, the playground equipment gets delivered and they start installation. And then in May, they will start the surfacing, and then fencing will still be done, and then sod, and then that should be good. And then the other thing in progress that Bethany has been working very hard on is the furniture selections for the entire building, which is a huge undertaking. So, and then the other project under construction, of course, is St. John Elementary. That is the new entrances, gym, offices. One kind of scope change that's occurred on that project is now that there's a new gym, the old gym is being abandoned. So there's that space that is pretty nice space to use for something. There's always been a shortage of classrooms at the elementary school. So now the plan is to, over the summer, hopefully convert that space into 2 good-sized classrooms and then 1 smaller room that can be used for whatever is decided.
Currently, the brick is about 70% complete. The windows are in. They're taping and painting, and the office additions. The athletic equipment is coming at the end of the month. In April, we'll see the wood floor start to go down, and after it is completed, we'll put the bleachers in. We'll probably be doing this project in June.
And that leads us to the last project, which was initially the wrestling facility. It had kind of morphed a little bit over time, and right now, due to some site constraints, the building has bounced back behind the pack again. And the program for that building, you know, a lot of it with all these projects is looking at them all the different pieces and how they all fit into the budget. And sometimes when you get to the end and you go, okay, we need to reassess and look at which things are really the priorities. The priorities came out that the wrestling really did need to be addressed still. Working with Colin's team and really trying to figure out how to maximize that budget. This building will be a metal building. The program for the building is a large wrestling room along with locker rooms and then a small room for golf that they can use. It's really figuring out what the priorities were for that.
And I think if you'll remember, we originally had a high school gymnasium with a wrestling facility under it. That was going to be pricey because of the elevated gymnasium. So then we brought that down. There's also some bottleneck issues in front of the pack there with that building there, some safety concerns. So then we transitioned to maybe an athletic facility along with a wrestling facility. We were on a really good track, had a really good location picked out for it. And then for some reason they had to walk down the hill and find a sinkhole. And that site then became something that we weren't comfortable building on. So an athletic facility is not off the table. But until we find a good site for it, we have to kind of back off on that one. Wrestling was on the original, so we're moving forward with that because we think we have a pretty good site plan for that.
And so, and I think in the last board meeting, we had presented that large athletic building sort of in 2 phases. And the first phase was always the wrestling, and the second phase was the large area. So going back to the initial thought of the wrestling facility, it fits better into the overall budget for everything. In terms of timeline, like Colin mentioned, elementary is supposed to be finishing up like end of summer, June or so. And we'd like to hit the ground running then shortly, as soon after that as we can on the wrestling building. And then in terms of overall budget,
Might have to blow that up.
what?
Talking about.
At the last board meeting that Colin and I were at, the overall budget was at 22.6, and right now we're at 22.5. So, we're sticking right in there. The other thing that I don't think we had on the last spreadsheet, but is on this one, is the field lighting. So that's in there too. All the other projects, the first two projects came in. You'll see that there's a credit on this line for Bloomsdale and middle school. Brockmiller was able to save a lot of money in a lot of places. So those are good change orders that are negative. ECC and elementary, of course, there's a little bit of added scope. As you get further into projects and you have available money, you're able to go, okay, maybe we need to do this here, maybe we need to do this, or we've uncovered something.
No, they're all the projects we've come in under at the end of all of them. ECC and elementary, we're still carrying some contingency on those projects too. So from a budget standpoint, the projects have gone very smoothly.
I think a lot of that has to do with the local contractors that we've attracted to our projects.
Yes, part of the reason why I like the CMAR process so much is because we're able to actually engage reputable and local contractors, and you guys have a lot here, and it's paid big dividends.
Well, and the process has worked really well for us because it's just easy to call them up and say, okay, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about that? So it's been a nice collaborative approach too. And of course, Dr. Taylor's been in a lot of meetings and been very patient with us. Along with all of your principals. And so they're probably tired of seeing us and they're probably ready for this all to be done, but we've enjoyed it.
You all have any questions for them?
The wrestling building is behind the pack is what it shows.
Okay.
And so a little bit of an update on that one. Right now, we're in the process of getting Taylor Engineering to do a survey back there. So we can really figure out, that's just an idea of where it'll go. When the pack was built, there was some dirt moved around, and of course, we didn't afford it all. So we'll figure out exactly where the optimal.
If you find anything, just pump some concrete down there.
For the wrestling facility, is it big enough for high school, and is the plan with the current one for middle school use?
Yeah, so shifting gears away from the athletic facility for now allowed us to build a quality wrestling facility that they will be able to house boys and girls in. Be big enough, those mats there and that configuration is to Jared's specifications. He's been brought in on that and kind of given the green light on where we are here. He did make one accommodation on the last drawing. He did, require a shower right next to the coach's office for the coaches. It's kind of an inside joke. Yeah, so he's been included in the process the entire time, and we've been having conversations with him. We feel like going this direction allowed some of that extra money to be put towards lighting on field lighting, both downtown and on our football field, but also to be able to reconfigure our current wrestling space into an updated weight room, which we've needed for a while, and then updating the current wrestling room into another away location for away teams to come in, because right now they come in the girls' locker room and the girls have to be out of there for practice time, and so they're overlapping and their stuff's in there. So now this gives us another location for those away teams to come in and go into kind of a locker type room.
And then can you talk a bit about the decision for the library to stay where it's at as opposed to the gymnasium?
So we had meetings with John Beckett, Carrie Staffen, KRJ, Brockmiller, and we're moving forward with the library moving into the gymnasium. During those meetings, Mrs. Beckett mentioned her current space has light, outside sunlight coming in, and her current space, this and that. And then we started looking at all of the equipment, all of the bookshelves, all of the desks. that we would have to purchase to put in the gymnasium to make it a library space, not to mention some HVAC changes, bringing the ceiling down in some form or fashion so it doesn't feel like a gymnasium. It started to get a bit overwhelming and pricey. And so then we were like, well, the library is a good space where it is. What if we transition to make the gymnasium classrooms instead? And so we started going down that route, and I think we're going to be able to save some money there as well.
And the idea was always to renovate that library into classrooms. So it was like there was this domino effect happening, so we just took out that.
Does putting the wrestling room back there allow us, or do the funds allow us to pave that parking lot back there?
So I have quotes on getting the high school parking lot completely redone by Bowman. Once that is done, and then we've held off on that, you all have approved that in the past. I haven't received the bids or put out for bids on what that's going to look like. The thought is we would reconfigure the parking back there to butt up against the front of the wrestling facility, so and reconfigure it all together and pave the entire area. That's the thought. The budget piece isn't put out there.
You could just drive out the back.
Drive out the back is a great idea.
For the restroom, existing men's restroom at the football fields, or any plans for that still without the building being?
So we transitioned, even when we were still looking at the wrestling facility being back there, we transitioned away from moving a concession stand and restrooms to the athletic facility because those are block built, and it's the first time I've ever been in the women's. It's pretty solid. You can use some sprucing up. The men's is what needs to be reconfigured. That's not in this budget. That needs to go in a facilities plan for us, I think, to do on our own and reconfigure that and spruce it up quite a bit. Where I'm trying to put it, where they tried to put it, and where I try to put it is two different places. I don't understand any reasons why they're putting it where they're putting it. But yeah, we're trying to kind of meet in the middle somewhere and look at the topography and the lay of the land and what we're able to do versus how much parking. So we're playing that game back. And every time she brings it back to me, it's moved somewhere else.
Right. I'm just seeing if he's paying attention.
And that helps with the throw at the shot, disc, and jab as well.
Yes. So yeah, they wouldn't have to be moved right now. Jav stays where it is. Yeah.
You know, I don't think we're trying to hurry, not to see you guys.
Oh.
It's hurry to get down.
Get it done, right? Uh-huh.
Feels like a long process, right? Yeah. Well, it's come a long way in the last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, very proud.
So Bailey would like to point out that we strategically
Right.
invested our bond proceeds when we received them and have somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.2 million in interest earned over the time that we've drawn that money down. It's still sitting there earning. I mean, every time we pay a bill, it's less and less, so we're earning less. But we're being conscientious with the funds that our taxpayers entrusted with us and trying to get the most out of our dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I love seeing
Be
you
safe.
work together.
All right, that takes us to new business and insurance rates for the 25-26 school year.
This will be quite the shift of gears.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're not gonna clap for this?
You might. Some people might. This year, I'm on the board for OSBA, and I was able to sit in on their review over claims data over the past year, and was privy to the discussions on what the rate increases should be. I will tell you that in the past, having discussions with United Healthcare and Anthem, This was a completely different process. If you'll remember, United and Anthem would come in anywhere 10 to 22% rate increases, and then there would be a negotiation period, and we would land somewhere in the middle. This was much, much different. It's much more defined. They have fund balances defined to support their program. They know the revenues coming in from all of their school districts. They're looking at the claims data on an ongoing basis, and they're able to provide that data to the MAAA consortium, for example, and show us where we are and how we're doing. As a school, we're doing really, really good this year regarding claims data. It's the first time in probably 4 or 5 years that we've been under 100% claims ratio. So, but other schools in our consortium are over. So that's one of the reasons we're in a consortium. So when one school has a good year, it balances out another school having a bad year. We're out on our own, we have a bad year, our rates go through the roof. And then the next year, if we have a good year, the rates aren't coming down. We're just going to keep paying that premium. So still in a consortium, it's beneficial. OSBA is much bigger now. We're offering 4 PPO plans and 4 high deductible health plans again this year. If you'll remember, last year we added a 9th plan because we added that gap insurance. The deductibles were $6,000 and $12,000, and we wanted to add that gap insurance and bring that down to $3,000 and $6,000 for an individual and a family. This year we took a bit of a different approach. Going into the insurance meeting this year, I had echoes of last year's meeting in my head and listening to some people saying, boy, it'd really be nice if we could get to a PPO. We used to have a PPO in the past, and people are used to that and comfortable with that. And there are different arguments for should we go back to a PPO? Should we stay with a high deductible health plan? We discussed that at length. I felt like we landed in a good spot. So if you go to the next slide. To cover the easy stuff first, vision, there is no change to. Board paid is $10.97. It's going to be right at $10.97. There was no change, no increase to that. If we move on to dental, that's a $3 increase where we were $25 board paid last year. It's a $3 increase this year, and it's been several years since this has been increased. And it was about time based on the claims data that we had and the income coming in from the premiums. This is completely too much information and ridiculously small. So really it's just an overview of the 4 PPO plans. On the left side, the high plan is $725, it looks like. And on the right side, the low plan is $628? And then if you go to the next slide, these are our high deductible health plans. We were all the way on the right last year, and then we added that gap insurance, so we were stuck in between the furthest plan on the right and the next plan. We removed that gap insurance this year and had significant discussion about moving over to the best high deductible health plan, which is $612 per person per month, and that would be the board paid amount. If you'll see in red there, those are that information in red is the only information that has changed from last year to this year, and the only reason it has changed is because a high deductible health plan they had to adjust that to meet statutory requirements. So this is where the committee landed on this best high deductible health plan, and the next couple slides are going to give you some more detailed information that you can actually see. So what I pulled out is some important information on all 4 high deductible health plans, and then I've highlighted the 3300 choice HSA, which is what the committee landed on. The board paid amount will be $612, and last year, in prior years, employees were able to step down and get an amount of money deposited into their health savings account. Last year, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $35. In the past, it's been $60, it's been $90, it's been a little over $100. Moving to this plan allows employees to step 3 levels of step down, where they would receive $47 in their health savings account a month, $67 a month, or $111 a month, if they chose to step down from the board paid plan. Committee members felt like that was a good trade-off. That kind of went away in the past. They had one option. Now they've got a couple options. There are some significant reasons why The two middle plans, the 4,000, 4,500 and the 4,500, 5,500 are not plans that I would recommend employees choose, and it has to do with copays after you meet your deductible. Those plans have copays. The plan on the far right and the plan that was chosen by the committee do not have deductibles after copays. Go to the next slide. And then this is annually what those figures would be. So an employee would have the option to put up to $1,332 in their, have that deposited by the district in their health savings account annually. Next slide. And so if we look at a history, I have health, dental, vision, life, and a total district cost, along with an increase, decrease. If you look at the green text, that's 25, 26. So we'll be transitioning from a $1.925 million cost for health insurance to the district to a $2.295 cost to the district, which is a $370,000 increase just for health insurance alone. Given the direction our district has gone with wellness this year, and given our employees' participation in our wellness activities this year, this is in line with that. This provides them with an updated insurance plan that hopefully will meet their needs a little better than we did this past year. So the total increase from this year to next year will be $379,866,000. Professionals that I've talked to that have been CFOs or superintendents will describe a district budget as a pie. And every time you spend money, a piece of that pie comes out. And I've discussed this with the insurance committee. They are well aware. You know, last year we were able to give a $1,500 raise to the base. This $379,000 takes a chunk out of that pie. Where we end, which we'll talk about in one of the next items on the agenda, the budget revision, will determine what we're able to do. I communicate always that the board is committed to maintaining a salary schedule and a benefits package that's attractive and staying leader of the pack in those areas. So we're going to do everything we can, but like I said, the budget is a pie. And we have to have revenues and expenditures making sense, and this is a huge expenditure that's going to be increasing next year, so we're going to have to take that into consideration. That's. Any questions?
So basically, we're jumping up to a much higher HSA.
We're jumping up to the best high deductible health plan OSBA offers. One thing I forgot to mention is that if an employee doesn't like high deductible health plan and they want a PPO, they can spend $16 a month and jump up to the PPO. We thought that was reasonable too. One of the key reasons that the committee landed on this plan is that max out of pocket, Lance, will you help me out there? Is that $4,300 for an individual?
Yes.
Level one, $4,300 for the individual and $8,600 for family. Is that right?
That's right.
So if you keep that in mind, $4,300 and $8,600. Now go over to the PPO plans. It's a prior slide. And so if you look at that PPO plan that they could step up to for 16, it's the one on the far right. The max out of pocket there for an individual is $6,500 for an individual and $13,000 for a family. And so that played a key role in why we didn't step up there, because it's actually going to be a higher max out of pocket for them, along with paying co-pays every visit. So that is one of the benefits of staying with the high deductible health plan.
I think we had some really good discussions in that meeting.
Yes, we did.
It was very, very good discussions from the employees.
Yes. Now, I've been talking specifically about level one. There is another column there, level two. So level one is blue preferred and level two is blue access. And that those more expensive hospitals are going to fall in the blue access category. And, you know, more local, more local, less expensive hospitals are going to fall in the level one category.
Do you know where St. John falls?
Level one.
Perfect.
So same plan, but if you use the other hospital, your copay goes up.
Correct. Now, if you are, let's say, there's a specialist you need at a hospital that's more expensive and falls into the level 2. That deductible will apply to the level 1 once you get over there.
I think in prior conversations, you had told me that it should have been a larger increase, but can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So the overall increase for MAAA schools is 6%. And that was a discussion. It started out mid-6s, and then after some superintendents got into the discussion, we talked about fund balances and what could happen to the OSBA fund balances. We landed on 6%, and that's where they voted. You have to remember, when we came on to OSBA, they gave us a 5% load factor. And basically, that's their protection on, we're not sure about all these schools yet. We're going to charge you a 5% load factor for coming into our consortium. So that 5% load factor in year 2 goes down to 3%. So even though it's a 6% increase, our load factor gets reduced by 2. So really for us, it's only a 4% increase. Next year, it'll go down to a 2% load factor. So we'll lose another percent, and the following year it falls off.
And ideally, they see the AAA schools are contributing positively to their consortium. And
We had that conversation with them at our last AAA Health Consortium meeting, and they said we're right where they expected us to be.
okay, cool.
We're jumping up plans. If you want to jump to a PPO, it's only $16 more a month. I don't know if the history's on there, but last year, I guess, for what we have, we spent about $513 per employee.
$513.35 for health insurance.
And we're jumping to $612.
Correct.
It's about 300.
What percentage
I would need Megan to be completely accurate because she has those numbers at the tips of her fingers. I think I don't want to be incorrect. The majority, I think, are board paid. Yes. You always have individual needs where you have a sick family member or something going on, a health issue going on that you're going to jump up and just and pay that because you know that your costs are going to be there.
I feel it's appropriate right now also to say thanks for everyone who contributed to the wellness event and the app, and I hope that continues next year.
As do I.
To approve the health and provision and licensing rates for the 25-26 school year as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the calendar adjustment for the 24-25 school year.
Okay, so another hot item. Last day of school and where that should be. We've worked hard trying to balance educational integrity with employee and student need, and it's been tough. We've had 7 snow days. The way our calendar is constructed is a bit different, and in a future board meeting, we're going to revisit the calendar and a couple aspects of it. But this calendar is set. So if we went by the calendar that we submitted to DESE, our last day of school would be May 29th. We've had 7 snow days, and that takes us to our 7th snow day. So Memorial Day is the 26th. That means we would have the Memorial Day holiday. We would come back Monday and Tuesday and have finals. And Wednesday would be half a day where we finish up our finals, turn in our Chromebooks, and get the kids out of here for the summer. I can pretty much guarantee you, if I talk to any teacher in the district, they would say that's a bad idea. Those 3 days, when you look at educational quality, and really your kids, when taking finals, you want them the best of the best. When you're bringing them back after the Memorial Day holiday, we're not going to get the best of the best. It's going to be a tough slog for those 3 days. So that leads us to, what do we do? What are our options? Well, our district has traditionally had more than the 1,044 hours that are required. And it's been that way since I was hired here in 2003, and it's just traditionally what we do. So we can look at adjusting some of those days and coming up with a new last day of school. So I've talked to Dr. McClard, I've talked to Dr. Drury, I've talked to anybody who'll listen to try and figure out the best approach to take. So if you go to the next slide. If we, for example, look at May 23rd as the last day of school and have a half day on May 23rd, that means we will make up 3 of those 7 snow days. We will get out before the Memorial Day holiday. We'll have to look at the professional development teacher checkout day that we traditionally have after the last day of school. And I pitched to building admin, could we at 1 o'clock go from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock and have just a long day? And anybody who wanted to check out, we could fit them in, could check them out. And then anybody who needed to reschedule for the following week or the week after, which we traditionally do as well, they could make a schedule with their building admin and come in and check out on those days. So got good feedback from that, but that does adjust our hours, and that's important to note how many hours we would be losing educationally. So if you go to the next slide. Yep, one more. So we had 1,092 and a half original hours. We missed 7 snow days, so that reduces it 45 and a half hours. So that takes us to 1,047 hours. So ahead. If we add back in those 3 days, 19 and a half hours, that gets us to 1,066 and a half, which is our new calendar total. I communicated with DESE. I sent them all of this information and said, is this going to meet our statutory requirement? And they said yes. I think this lands us in a good place. I think it's a great gesture to both teachers and students, getting out before Memorial Day and not facing that challenge of coming back and taking finals and checking out after that holiday. One thing we do need to keep in mind is our hourly people. Our hourly people will be losing hours. And so Dr. McClard and I have been in discussion on how to meet them where they are and, not invent things for them to do, but come up with constructive things. A couple things on the agenda that have been asked for in the past: CPR training, ALICE training, MANT training, and could we have a professional development day for them where they could come in and get paid after school's out, and we could provide some of those services in anticipation of next year, so that when we can't fit it in the schedule for next year, we can already check it out. So that's in the works as well. I don't want them to think that we're leaving them by the wayside and just reducing days and not thinking of them, because we are. But that's my proposal. We're still well over the 1,044 minimum hours. And I think this strikes a good balance while maintaining educational integrity that we always do here at St. John.
Can you talk to me about the number of days? Are you going to meet that?
We will not. So one thing, state legislature is so wonderful. So they have a requirement for 169 school days in order to meet the criteria to get a 1% bonus on your funding formula. For us, that's about $40,000, somewhere in the neighborhood between $35,000 and $40,000. Right now, going to the 29th, we have 169 days. We would get the 1% bonus. So we could go to the 29th and get that bonus, or we could look at doing what makes sense, what's the right thing to do for our students and our teachers, and we could get out early. There is a bill in the House, I believe, to adjust that requirement, and I think it says that if you miss because of snow days, you don't have to meet that 169-day requirement. You still qualify for the 1%. Whether that gets across the finish line, I'm not sure. Attached to something else. So we would be forfeiting that 1% bonus. Good news is our calendar already has more than 169 days in it next year, and we would qualify for that bonus next year.
Yeah, they call it a mini
So it's passed the House already. Yeah.
Pass the House into the
Senate they could pass it. Just functional this year, surprisingly.
You know, they could just put an act of God. Not our fault.
So actually, we have 4.5 hours forgiven, and you have to remember it's on an hourly basis now. For every hour you go, an hour's forgiven. Hour you go, but you have to reach a certain threshold, and the threshold that we reached, if we went to the 29th, would get us to reduce the amount that we have to make up 4.5 hours. Yeah. And contracts will not be adjusted. Money would not be taken away. I don't think that should.
It's all based on percentage, so those aren't any counted as absences for them to make those payments. So it would just be the total number of days that they're in attendance. It would be very minimal.
So if it's this would be seniors, there is an extra 2 weeks of school after graduation.
Right. If we're So what we're looking at is May 23rd.
May 23rd, half day.
Yes.
I don't see anybody in the audience disagreeing.
Everybody okay? Right. Hey, I know Dave graduated in.
I did graduate in June.
Well, I would just encourage everyone to email Mike Anderson.
Yes.
Send it and tell him, let's fix this bill.
SB 607. You want to email your state senator.
He'd love to hear from us all, I'm sure.
You know, that's something we did learn though. We definitely need, you guys have any problems, anything that you see wrong, make sure you reach out to them. Because if they don't hear it from you guys or us, they'll.
They're certainly hearing from other people.
Definitely. Well, they are, but
You hear a lot that they want more representation in schools, but it's like we don't have time and capacity to be up there all the time in their ear like others do. So grassroots is, I guess, what I'm getting at.
send
Yes.
them an email or something.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the revised 2024-2025 district calendar.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Last but not least, the amended budget.
I have provided you with an amended budget booklet, and I'm just going to hit the highlights. There's not a whole lot of changes in this amended budget, but if you'll remember last year when the auditors visited us, they mentioned that we had had quite a few expenditures. And I think we amended in February, and then we got to June and had quite a few expenditures for Prop SG. And from our February amendment to our ASBR, there was a significant difference. And they just made a recommendation that moving forward, we get closer to actual numbers. And so that's what we're doing here in an attempt to hone in on those figures a little closer. I went in and all the known figures based on historical payments that we've received, I adjusted all revenues to all of those known figures, and then made updated predictions on all the other revenues based on information from DESE, information from the state. I'll tell you that after the governor's address and his $300 million shortfall, we adjusted things a little bit. In this budget, we're not even sure we'll get to the SAT this year. DESE has moved that number down a little bit.
67.45.
Correct. So they moved that down a little bit, and I've adjusted these numbers accordingly. We might get there yet, but it looks like right now it's going to be a little short. So we'll see in the end, and I'll keep updating it as we go. Couple highlights for you. On page 10, State assessed railroad and utilities was 1.42. I adjusted that down to 1.2. On page 13, federal ARP IDEA, we had $109,000, and that was an artifact from last year's budget. We don't receive any more ARP funds, so we removed that. And then if you'll turn to page 15, where the totals are for revenues, if you compare that to our prior revised budget, we have a negative impact on Fund 1, $155,000. We're down about $9,000 in Fund 2. We're down about $30,000 in Fund 3, and we're down about $6,000 in Fund 4 for a total of just over $200,000. Movements away from revenue. And that's indicative of what I was just talking about with all of those budgetary adjustments. So then the next several pages are all expenditures, and we had a few building level expenditure adjustments, but not too many. If you turn all the way to page 76, Fund 1 was reduced $276,000, which is actually a benefit. We're reducing expenditures. It's actually a movement in the right direction. Fund 2 increased $118,000. Fund 3 increased $130,000. And then Fund 4 increased $452,000. And Fund 4 is going to be the one that's most variable because of all the expenditures we have throughout this year.
Do you mind me asking where Fund 2 increase was seen at?
Fund 2 increase was seen, we updated payroll.
Okay.
And so we do a payroll expense report, and Crystal goes through that and looks. We can get an estimate of it, but as we go through the year, it gets more accurate. So we pulled that again, and we went in and updated all of those salary figures. Crystal took that payroll report, updated all of those salary figures, and that got us. Remember, all of our money goes into Fund 1, and then we transfer it to Fund 2 to cover it. So that's where that.
So it wasn't addition of like a couple teachers, it was just?
No.
Okay.
It's just adjustments to salary.
Okay.
And so that gives us a total increase in expenditures of $424,000. And then the last page is just a summary, and this does not include current fund balances. This is just a picture of this year's budget and where we end based on revenue and expenditures. And we're at negative $880,000 in Fund 1, which is up $7,000. Fund 2 is not applicable because that's always zeroed out. Fund 3, we're up $161,000. And then in Fund 4, we're down $238,000. That's a total increase of $407,296,000 from the prior revised budget. So honing in on those numbers, every month I go back in and look at them and we get a little closer, and that gap gets smaller and smaller and smaller. This time it just got a little bit wider because of some of those hesitancies for the revenue that we're seeing.
Do you have the percent of reserves that we're going to end at projected? If not, I can figure it out.
We don't. I don't have this in this
Okay.
revised budget. We usually don't include that because it is so variable.
I'll check that out myself. Thanks.
Any other questions about revised budget?
Any questions? Nope. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the March amended budget for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All personnel changes approved during closed session this evening will be provided in the draft meeting minutes within 72 hours of adjournment.
Make a motion.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything.